Many thanks for joining in on Politics HQ tonight. These are the stories that made our headlines. Let's start by telling you that the newly sworn-in governor of Ondo State, Lucky Aiyedatiwa, has expressed deep sorrow that his predecessor, the late Governor Rotimi Akeredolu, was not alive to witness his swearing-in ceremony. Speaking during his inaugural speech after being sworn in as the 7th governor of the state, Aiyedatiwa paid tribute to Akeredolu's visionary leadership and tireless efforts in developing the state.
Permit me to express special gratitude to my immediate predecessor, our visionary leader, the late Arakunrin Oluwarotimi Odunayo Akeredolu, SANCON, who worked tirelessly to develop our state for about 7 years before he took a glorious bow to join the Saint Triumphant. We must not forget this courageous and personable leader who literally emptied himself in the service of Ondo State and Nigeria, as his legacy continued to inspire us to continue to build upon the foundations he laid. I am particularly indebted to him for choosing me as his deputy and for his public and undisguised prophetic declaration at about this time 4 years ago, particularly on the 24th of February 2021.
Let's also tell you that the Rivers State caucus in the National Assembly has reiterated that Right Honorable Martin Amaule and 26 other lawmakers loyal to the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike lost their seats after defecting from the PDP to the APC on December 11, 2023. Now, caucus leader Honorable Awaji Imobek Abiante dismissed claims that a federal high court ruling validated their positions, insisting that the judgment did not address their defection, citing Section 109 of the Constitution. He maintained that the defectors automatically forfeited their seats and accused them of misleading the public. Speaker Victor Okojumbo welcomed the caucus stand, reaffirming legislative support for Governor Sim Fubara.
At 11th of December 2023, when Right Honorable Martin Amaule read out the letters of defection for himself and 26 others on the floor of the Rivers State House of Assembly, they lost their seats and automatically, mandatorily became former members of the House of Assembly. The only legal implication of the above is that Honorable Martin Amaule and his group of 27 remain former members of the Rivers State House of Assembly and accordingly are no longer entitled to parade themselves as members of the House or to partake in any business or affair of the House. It is worthy to note that neither the fact of their defection nor any issue relating to their defection nor on their status as former lawmakers of Rivers State House of Assembly was raised, submitted, or discussed in the proceedings leading to the 22nd January 2024 judgment of Honorable Motosho. Instead of placing before the Federal High Court the truth and material facts about their status as ex-lawmakers, to afford the Honorable Court an opportunity of deciding on the real issues, the claimants in that case, talking about Honorable Amaule and co., craftily invented lies and falsehood to mislead the Honorable Court.
However, our focus tonight, we will be exploring the political economy of Tinubu's tax reform bills. I'll be speaking with Senator Yusuf Abubakar Yusuf The former senator representing Taraba Central Senatorial District is joining virtually from Abuja. At some point, we'll switch gears to talk about a mega movement emerging to unseat the APC in 2027. I'll be speaking with Wale Okunniyi, is the Director General of the National Consultative Front. He joins me live in the studio. Welcome. I am Dakmo Adigboyi. Let's get the answers. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's tax reforms aims to create a more equitable tax system in the country. The proposed tax reform bill seeks to overhaul the country's tax collection and administration systems, presenting an opportunity for a more efficient tax model. Now, some of the key provisions include revised VAT revenue sharing formula. 60% of the VAT revenue will go to state where goods and services are consumed, and 20% will be distributed based on population, and the remaining 20% will be equally shared amongst all states. Now, exemptions for small businesses and low-income earners. Individuals earning less than 800,000 naira annually will be exempt from income tax. The small businesses turnovers below 50 million naira will be exempted from corporate tax. Now, taxes on digital assets. The reform introduces taxes on digital assets, modernizing Nigeria's tax structure and addressing the growing digital economy as implications and criticism also arise. Now, this, of course, includes the revised VAT revenue sharing formula, which has sparked controversy, particularly with northern states governors and stakeholders arguing that it unfairly favors southern states. Also, we have critics who also argue that the tax reform will stifle economic growth, increase the financial burden on businesses and citizens, and also exacerbate existing economic disparities. However, supporters like the Honorable Minister of State for Defense, that's Dr. Bello Matawalle, praised the reform as a pivotal element in Nigeria's economic turnaround, designed to create a more equitable tax system and stimulate investment and also create jobs. Well, joining me to discuss this is Senator Yusuf Abubakar Yusuf, is a former senator representing Taraba Central Senatorial District. He joins virtually from Abuja. It's an honor, sir. Thank you for your time. Great. Senator Yusuf, if you can hear me, let me first take your opinion as regards the idea of the tax reforms, the initiative itself. Overall, what do you make of it?
Well, thank you very much. Government has, a right to do tax at any point in time, it feels it can do. However, taxes, are also to be considered in terms of their own fairness, whether, it's a burden, on the economy or on the taxpayers, or whether, the timing is right, or whether, it is fair or unfair. For me, I think, this tax reform bill, is not in tandem with the APC manifesto, is not even in tandem with the renewed hope of Mr. President. I think, we need to look at it, furthermore, in terms of further consultation with the Nigerian people. A consumption tax is for every Nigerian consumer. And, we have over 240 million, Nigerians who are consumers. So I think further consultation in terms of not just their representatives, they should even go further to consult with much more than just the representatives of the people. So I think, yes, while, on the one side, there will be an increase, in revenue for the government, but for me, that increase in revenue is money illusion. Already, so much tax has been done, by removal the fuel subsidy, by floating the naira. These are already taxes, that has been, So now putting VAT on the additional additional taxes, as I call them, on the Nigerian people, I think it's a lot of burden. So if they want to raise revenue, you know, they should go into taxing the rich and not the poor. How many people, you know, are earning, you know, less than, you know, 800,000 naira, you know, per month? How many are taxed? How many are income earners in this country? How many of them? So for me, you know, what is important is let not the poor to subsidize the rich, because this tax reform bill is for the poor to subsidize the rich. As far as I'm concerned, that is the way I see it from an economics point of view.
Okay.
So if they want to do this, let them tax the luxuries of this country. People are living on subsidies, you know, on luxuries. You know,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir.
Smart luxury.
I'm sorry to, of course, interrupt your line of thought. You've made some critical points. You said that you have strong reservations about the initiative, and you insist that there needs to be further consultation. We know that today alone, even on the floor of the House, discussions were had and consultations have been ongoing on this matter, you know, for quite some time. You talk about this old formula aiming to sort of further impoverish or, you know, the poor. But, I mean, a breakdown of it has it that individuals earning less than 800,000 naira, for instance, you know, will be exempt. And also businesses with a turnover of less than 50 million naira would also be exempt from you know, corporate taxes. And the initiative also aims to address issues of multiple taxation. So my question to you, sir, is I think these issues, from your analysis, seem to be addressed. So what exactly would you, or specifics, would you say you have reservations about? Because you talk about it favoring the rich as against the poor, but the breakdown looks otherwise.
No, let me tell you, you know, VAT is on consumption, right?
Yes, I'm with you.
Since it is on consumption, why would the federal government, you know, take over the responsibility of VAT rather than, you know, states also doing their own consumption tax? Why would the federal government collect on behalf of states and only to reallocate? You know, for me, it abused, you know, the federal structure. You know, let the states do their own, let the local governments do their own, let the federal government do their own. The federal government is collecting tax. At the end of the day, they want to collect either 10%. Why would that be? That is the issue. For me, you know, it is the federal structure that we should look at, the fundamentals, you know. So, yes, the tax can boost the revenue. Yes, you know, the big father is the federal government. You know, what I'm saying is that this taxation that we are doing, even looking at it from the developmental level point of view, you know, it is not going to be, you know, in the best interest for a common man of this country as time goes on. So we need to look at it further in terms of reviewing, you know, even the generation of revenue by VAT. You know, this section 77 that they are talking about, first of all, is it fair? Is it fair to the common man? So we are not looking at, you know, the common man. We are only looking at probably the income earner and the people that are rich enough. For me, you know, if I'm riding, you know, 100, 200 million naira car, you know, and somebody, you know, is riding a bicycle, if you say that, you know, the VAT is on a particular amount of money, and therefore that bracket of 20% or 10%, you know, is fair, for me it is not fair. It is not fair at all.
Okay.
So if that is what they want to do, the person riding a Mercedes, you know, should be taxed VAT of 30, 40%. And then the common man that residing a bicycle should be taxed, you know, at a rate of 10%.
Senator Yusuf.
What will be, you know, fairness in terms of consumption, fairness.
Senator Yusuf.
That's why I said the rich will become richer by this reform bill, and the poor will become poorer by this reform bill.
All right, Senator Yusuf, let's also look at another angle of conversation around this tax reform bill, which particularly has to do with the northern region, where there are strong reservations even by governors saying that it favors more of the southern part of the country as against the north. What's your take?
So for me, I'm a Nigerian. It is not a matter of north or south or east or west. What is important is for the common man in this country, whether he's a northerner or he's a southerner or he's a westerner or he's an easterner. So what is important is that, you know, the poor man of this country, whether, you know, wherever he is, you know, is going to get, you know, more burden on him in terms of meeting, you know, the taxation, you know, as compared to the rich man. So, yes, people should pay on the basis of where, you know, should enjoy the benefit of where they consume. I agree. But that is not the whole truth. The whole truth is that the poor man is going to get poorer in terms of this tax. Inflation is even one of it. How are we going to tackle inflation? Already the monetary policies, you know, are complaining. You know, the fiscal policy in terms of discipline in the expenditure structure of this, the splurging, you know, of all our expenditure, government expenditure agencies and what have you. So what are we talking about? This about north, south, east, southwest. I am not there. What I'm there is for the common man of this country to have the benefit of this tax, of taxation. This idea of north is getting less, south is getting more, this state is... No, that is not the issue. The issue is there is a division between the rich and the poor in this country. And that is where the issue is. So we should take note of that.
Okay, at this point, we would, of course, come back to this conversation, sir. I would go on a quick break, where, of course, we'll just cut to where we understand that it's breaking now. President Donald Trump welcomed the French President Emmanuel Macron to the White House, you know, for talks today at a moment of deep uncertainty about the future of transatlantic relations, with Trump transforming the American policy and also effectively turning out European leadership as it looks to quickly end Russia's war in Ukraine.
And which would be nice. I'd love to meet at the Oval Office. So the agreement's being worked on now. They're very close to a final deal. It'll be a deal with rare earths and various other things. And he would like to come, as I understand it, Europe. And you're talking about Ukraine as part of that whole situation. The other side has a lot of support also. So let's see how it all works out. It might work out. Look, you can never make up lives. The one thing you can make up the money, but you can't make up the lives. A lot of lives lost. I think probably a lot more lives than people are talking about. It's been able to do that if we could. You know, they have massive rare earth. It's a very large, it's actually the largest in terms of land. It's by far the largest country. And they have very valuable things that we could use, and we have things that they could use, and it would be very good if we could do that. I think it would be a very good thing for world peace and lasting peace. Well, I mean, our first, by far, our first thing that we want to do, the first element of the overall transaction is ending the war. But if, just as we're doing with Ukraine, if we could do some economic development in terms of Russia, just we're charging them. So it's not a question of increasing. If they charge us 20%, we charge them 20%. If they charge us 30 or 40%, then we do that too. So that would be on European Union, but that really would be with respect to everybody. It's reciprocity. So reciprocal. Whatever they charge us, we charge them. Nobody has a problem. Even you, as the union, have a problem. Right?
Mr. President, are you thinking of going to Moscow soon, maybe in May for the 9th of May for the anniversary?
I mean, not soon, but I would be certainly, if this all gets settled out, which I think it will, sure, I would go there.
On the 9th of May?
And you can come here, too.
On the 9th of May on the Red Square?
I don't know the 9th of May now. Beautiful people that shouldn't be dying. And we don't want that. And remember what I said. This could escalate into a third world war. And we don't want that either.
Mr. President, your envoy Steve Witkoff suggested a temporary ceasefire in the conflict, but the Russian government has denied that out of hand. Do you worry that they're not dealing in good faith?
No, I think they, at some point, will agree to that. I think they probably wanted to. And I think once you have a ceasefire, it's going to end, because they're not going from a ceasefire back to war. I think people have had their full. I'm just glad I was able to help, because there was no communication with Russia until I came along. Biden didn't communicate. He couldn't communicate with his own child. So Biden didn't communicate. He couldn't. It was terrible. He hadn't spoken to Putin in 3 years. You're trying to end the war. People are being killed. Every week, thousands of people are being killed. Soldiers, in this case, mostly. Also towns, you know, as missiles go in and back and forth. No, it's a shame. This should have never happened. This is a very sad, this is going to go down to the history books. This is a very sad moment, because that should have been stopped. That should have never started. And if it did start, it should have stopped the first week, not 3 years later. Okay?
And of course, what you are just watching on your screen right now is President Trump and President Emmanuel Macron, you know, at the White House on talks today, at the moment, on deep, you know, as regards on deeper certainty about the future of transatlantic trade, and also issues around foreign policy. There was also talks around the, you know, war between Russia and Ukraine. And of course, you can be rest assured that as these stories break, News Central will bring you up to speed. Let's go on a commercial break. When we return, Politics HQ continues. Stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. It's still Politics HQ. I still have Senator Yusuf Abubakar Yusuf, is a former senator representing Taraba Central Senatorial District. Thank you for staying with me, sir. Let's bring it back home. I would like your reaction. Great. I would like your reaction, sir, as regards some of the economic policies of Nigeria's current administration. I'm talking about the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as regards the ease of doing business and standard of living, with some of the policies that this administration introduced, you know, when it started.
Well, thank you very much. I think the most important policy that Mr. President, you know, has introduced was during his inaugural speech, when he said subsidy is gone. And that by itself has actually, you know, stampeded, you know, a lot of issues into this country. It has become, you know, highly inflationary. It has created money illusion. It has created, you know, inflation. It has increased, you know, so many fundamental issues that has affected the livelihood for a common man in this country. Yes, the middleman, the rich man may have been benefiting. Yes, the government has generated, you know, so much revenue, you know, to federal government, so much revenue to state government, so much revenue to local government. But all what I say, it is money illusion. Because by the time, you know, that money has increased, the price of, you know, cement has gone up, the price of iron rods have gone up, the price of that has gone up, So by the time you do your cost and benefit analysis, you'll find that, you know, if care is not taken, we are going to have, you know, a retrospective, you know, growth in our GDP. Number two, you know, the floating of the naira. Well, we have argued, you know, in the past, even, you know, the IMF, the World Bank has agreed that our naira is, you know, actually, you know, undervalued. And the government or the people, you know, around Mr. President continue to say the naira is overvalued, and therefore it needs, you know, further, you know, a depreciation. You know, I'm yet to find, you know, a floating base in these ones. Yes, you know, you remove subsidy. Yes, people will sit up, people will do that. But the fundamental issue is that the common man, you know, is most burdened in this country today. it is not about, whether, it's a Lagosian or somebody from Maiduguri or somebody from Yola or somebody from Sokoto. No, a common man is a common man. I'm a Nigerian, I have a feeling for a common man wherever he is in this country.
All right. Thank you so much for your time on the program. Senator Yusuf Abubakar Yusuf, a former senator representing Taraba Central Senatorial District. It's been a privilege, sir. Thank you once again for your time. Now, there are reports of a potential mega movement emerging to challenge President Bola Ahmed Tinubu ahead of the 2027 polls. And of course, this movement is rumored to be a coalition of various political or opposition groups, civil society organizations, and individuals dissatisfied with the current government. Speculation suggests that it may focus on issues like economic inequality, corruption, and governance. Some sources indicate that the movement could be led by prominent figures from the opposition, including politicians, activists, and maybe influencers. Well, joining me right now in the studio live is Wale Okunniyi, is the Director General for the National Consultative Front. He joins me live in the studio. Thank you for your time, sir.
Yes,
now,
pleasure to be with you again.
Great. What's the mega movement about?
Mega movement to save Nigeria, Nigeria's democracy. Mega movement, ideologically carved to save democratic rule, so that it doesn't revert back to self-help and military rule. That is what we are trying to put together. So bring about people who are committed to democratic rule, democracy, consolidation of our nascent democracy. Together, you find them in various political parties, in the civil society, in labor unions, and so on and so forth. So they will be brought together. As a matter of fact, they are already gravitating together on their own, like minds will meet. When we carry the same spirit, nothing can separate us. I think that was Ozemati of Cuba, so not even the sword of symmetry or the walls of prison can separate us. So they will find themselves together. We are beginning to gravitate to see how we can rescue or save Nigeria or save Nigerian democracy, so that we can begin to have a constructive engagement, formidable constructive engagement with government and the APC that is ruling now.
I mean, sorry to run into your line of thought, but this is not the first time Nigeria has witnessed this. We've seen this happen over the years. When there were movements against the military administration. We also saw when the PDP came into power, the permutations, the coalitions, the alliances that toppled that political party, and now the APC. And now it looks like we are moving in circles. But I think I'd even like to bring in what just happened a few days back, and that is the book launch of the former head of state of Nigeria, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, where we saw virtually all the former heads of state alive there. And we know how controversial IBB's administration was, but it looked like it was all pomp and pageantry. I'd like your reaction to that book launch as an activist yourself.
Well, it was a gathering of...
Did you feel validated? Did you feel justice has been served in any way? Because I know that you're a prominent activist, particularly in that era.
That gathering itself was of birds of the same feathers.
Even though he admitted to the June 12th, did you feel some sense of justice?
Yes,
or respite?
We feel some sense of validation to our struggle and vindication of what we have done in trying to bring about democracy in the 90s. And that's the sense we are. But we think again that you need to proceed further to act on that confession in such a way that you can compensate those who have lost, so variously because of that struggle. So you have to do something beyond just the confession, just the fanfare, the pageantry. You have to, government, and with the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu must do something critical that can really compensate, those who fought for democracy or who lost, like the MK Abiola family, those who were killed and incarcerated, those who lost there, so that there could be a sense of reconciliation and national healing. Because the main actor himself has come to confess that that was a coup against Nigerians, and that those who fought for the validation or the validation of the mandate of MKOD were justified. And so if they have lost in that process, they need to be compensated. So that is it. But today, what we are trying to do will be more ideologically slanted than before. Yes, mega movement, coalition gave back to even APC itself. We were involved at that level. We were involved at the level, the first level was to bring about a checkmate to PDP to stop a one-party state. And where you have leaders like Chief Tony and now Chief General Odumegwu Ojukwu, Falaye, Barabe Musa, all of them, Tunji Braithwaite, coming together to say we must save democracy. We must stop one-party rule. At that time, in 2007, after the 2007 election, and we did so much, but we could not agree at the edge, at the principle of the 2011 election. We could not agree to go with one party. So you had the ACN, you had the SDP was formed then. I remember how we put the paper of SDP that you have now, and then you had CPC.
But
and
the mega movement right now aims to create a solid front.
Yeah, one solid front again. Not like the case of 2023, where we put together the third force. We ignored the PDP because it was not ready to rebrand and restructure its leadership. It was not ready to take in our ideological messaging. So we ignored and then said, look, A has failed, B has failed.
All right.
We can get fresh breed people ideologically and let us have. And then we emptied everything to the Labour Party and that became the third force effectively. And it won that election somehow. But, history again. We await history for some other confession in future.
All right, thank you so much for your time on the program. Mr. Wale Okunniyi is the Director General for the National Consultative Front. It's been an honor. Hopefully, we'll have you again to discuss more on the modus operandi of the mega movement ahead of 2027. This time, maybe with specifics, if there are some big wigs, political names that have joined the movement. I'd like to know, but News Central will keep its eye on this one.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, at this point, this is where we drop the curtains. It's been a great one. In case you missed out, you can catch up on our YouTube platform. That's at News Central TV.